Good day, we are from Group 28 and today we will be presenting about environmental and ethical issues regarding our wastewater plant.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Karinisa binti Kusari with ID number 17005955. Now I will start the presentation with the introduction. Every processing plant, especially the wastewater resources recovery plant from the petroleum industry, require effective waste management to reduce the environmental and health effect on the environment. In terms of environmental concern, every waste stream produced by a wastewater resource recovery plant should meet the applicable environmental standard B discharge limit. According to Environmental Equality Act 1974, air pollution is one of the world's most serious environmental issues. The excessive amount of CO2 emitted directly to the atmosphere with the point of source primarily from chemical industries such as wastewater treatment plant will make a significant contribution to this problem. Land pollution in addition to air pollution is increasing at an alarming rate with excessive sludge emission being discharged without treatment. Environmental ethics is a critical component of environmental study because it is established the relationship between human and the environment. It ensures that we are all contributing to environmental conservation and preservation.
Hi, my name is Elisa, ID 25308. I will start off the presentation with Chapter 1, which is ethical and environmental issues related to carbon dioxide and sludge emissions and discharge.
There are three main ethical issues to be discussed in this chapter. The first one is limited utilization of recycling activities. There is less effort to maximize the usage of certain components that is present in the sludge for other chemical processes. So this made the discharged sludge very nutrient dense, making it more harmful for the receiving water bodies. Secondly, inadequate management of non-industrial hazardous waste. This includes no specific policy, low technology incineration, lack of capacity, and low penalties. Thirdly, operational inefficiencies of services. Employees or workers often working in chemical plant have poor quality control. Besides that, lack of scheduling and planning, poor control of resources, and lack of clear and robust performance indicators. There are two major environmental problems caused by our wastewater treatment plant, and that includes air pollution and land pollution. Air pollution will mainly caused by excessive carbon dioxide emission. Excessive CO2 in the atmosphere will generate greenhouse effect. The solar radiation is trapped by the greenhouse gases inside the atmosphere, making the global temperature to rise. Besides that, excessive CO2 emission also contribute to climate change. This includes sea level rise, water system disturbance, and extreme weather events. Land pollution occurred because of excessive sludge disposal. The disposed sludge has high content of nitrogen and phosphorus, making the sludge is very useful for agricultural use. Nutrient leaching happens when too much nitrate is removed from the soil. The pH drops too low, causing the soil become too acidic. Phosphorus, on the other hand, can cause stunted plant growth when in excess.
My name is Jasmine and I'll be proceeding with the second chapter of this presentation, which is reasoning of the importance behind CO2 and sludge emission treatment in an ethical and environmental perspective. We use a philosophical approach to address this issue, which is called environmental ethics. Environmental ethics investigates the moral link between humans and environment, as quoted by Conrad Ott in 2020. It is an important aspect in environmental studies since it establishes an interaction between human and environment, ensuring that we are all doing our share to conserve and preserve the environment. There are three main pairs of this principle. The first pair of principle would be justice and sustainability. The primary argument of this principle is that everyone should be treated equally. Environmental injustice may arise when a community is subjected to unequal exposure to toxins or emissions. It is unfair to the people who live near the plant location as they will be exposed to high level of contaminants. For example, if carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, is released into the atmosphere without control, clean air quality in the area will continue to get worse up to dangerous level. The sufficiency principle states that all forms of life are entitled to sufficient resources to survive and thrive. When this notion is applied to the solution offered for CO2 emission and sludge discharge treatment, everyone, regardless of social class, should be able to benefit from acceptable air quality and an adequate supply of clean water. Compassion extends the sufficiency concept to the earth. Animals, plants, and elements such as water, soil, and air, as well as humans, are morally significant in terms of environmental ethics. Hence, in context of designing the treatment solution for the plant's discharge, compassion is applied with the understanding that human activities or anthropogenic pollution will have an impact to not only humans but also non-human forms such as plants, animals, and aquatic ecosystem. The last principle is solidarity and participation. The idea of solidarity invites us to consider how we might able to relate to one another in a community setting. Participation, on the other hand, will put the concept of solidarity into practice. Many environmental issues arise as a result of decisions taken by private individual or businesses that have far-reaching consequences. In some circumstances, government make environmental policy without even considering the concept of solidarity or the public's influence. Those who are harmed are usually ignorant to the decision-making process until the worst consequences occur. They are oblivious to the long-term consequences of their actions. This ethical principle compels us to consider not only the stakeholders involved, but also their power to have a say in their right as citizens and customers before making any decision. Hence, this highlights the importance of companies taking appropriate actions in treating their emissions and discharge accordingly and responsibly.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Azman and I'll be presenting on how we can improve the emission of CO2 and improper oily sludge discharge into the environment that leads to various environmental damage. Despite various efforts has been taken by the authority to prevent the CO2 emission and sludge discharge into the atmosphere, it is still an ongoing major issue in all industrial plants, especially to the plants those involved with fossil fuel combustion, such as steel reforming plant. According to World Health Organization, industrial that involves the hydrocarbon combustion contributes to the highest amount of emission of CO2 and oily slash discharge into the wastewater. Therefore, in order to improve the environmental issues, it is important for the policymakers to take the baby step by providing the eligible industrial plants to claim for subsidy for the installation of treatment plants in the industries. This is to ensure the industrial plants selects the best treatment technologies with highest efficiency to treat CO2 and sludge, and also a proper handling of the discharge method to the environment. Next, industrial authority should invest and accelerate the research and development to innovate and establish efficient technology with the lowest pace and cost requirement. Currently, technology such as CO2 capture and storage that shows a promising result are still in R&D phase due to the lack of interest from the industrial plants. Similarly, sludge treatment has met its trade-off limit between meeting the standard discharge limit and also the cost of treatment. Therefore, accelerating research could help with newer discovery of technology and also optimization of best available technology. Then, inefficient process which contributes to the improper treatment of the waste should be replaced with newer technologies. Newer technologies are believed and also developed in a way to improvise the efficiency of the older technology. Moreover, policymakers should encourage the industrial plants to opt for fuel switching, where the fuel refers to the energy source that used by the industrial plants for the combustion process, which is also known to be one of the major contribution for the CO2 emission into the atmosphere. Therefore, replacing the non-renewable energy source to renewable energy source, such as biomass, helps in reducing the generation of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Last but not least, government should increase the awareness campaign towards community of the effects of the CO2 emission and waste discharge. Increasing awareness should help in reducing the demand for the use of fossil fuel-based products, which eventually reduces the waste generation in industrial plants due to lesser amount of fossil fuel is used for the combustion process. That is all from me.
Hi, I'm Amni and I will be presenting on the appropriate actions to address the ethical and environmental issues. Addressing on the environmental issues, every waste stream produced by the wastewater plant should meet the Standard B discharge limits according to EQA 1974. The sludge is a solid or semi-solid waste resulting from the wastewater treatment processes. Firstly, sludge thickening could be done in a gravity thickener tank where sludge volume is reduced to less than half of its original size. Next, is the sludge digestion process where organic solids are decomposed into stable substances to reduce their content, destroy pathogen and making it easier for sludge dewaterization. Lastly, digested sludge is dewatered in sludge drying bags before disposal where it is spread on an open bed sand and let to dry. The sludge cake may have a solids content of around 40% after 6 weeks of drying. As for the CO2, it could be treated through CO2 capture which includes cryogenic fractionation, membrane separation and molecular sieves method until the released CO2 gas meets the Environmental Quality Clean Air Regulation standard at 12%. It could also be removed by the stack gases by using MEA solvent. Table showing the comparison of net reduction of CO2 emissions using different technologies. Regarding the ethical issues, human error should be eliminated through implementation of a proper waste handling by person in charge according to management operations in a safe and ecologically responsible manner to avoid work plan deviation and injuries. Besides, a written code of conduct should be initiated by the Ministry of Environment and Water, which complies to the environmental regulation and ensure that employees adhere to the environmental standards when disposing the chemical waste. Next, to guarantee the procedures for safely managing waste and limiting environmental impacts remain up to date, they could be documented and maintained. Lastly, to establish greener practices, recruiting vendors who are environmentally conscious could be a very helpful action.
Last but not least, I will proceed with Chapter 5, the scale or location to implement these actions. A logical start to these changes would obviously from the core, which is the company or the plant itself. The company involvement in the industry serves as a demonstration of preventative methods for addressing environmental and ethical issues. Companies should use new environmental friendly technologies or even use renewable energy to reduce the environmental impact. Other than emission, for example, a company can employ a licensed waste contractor if they are unable to sort out or treat their waste accordingly. These issues are linked to the company's accountability and integrity in adhering to the government international organization standards. Next, the government is the most important pillar in the fight to safeguard the environment. They are in charge of policy making, law enforcement, community education, and a variety of other tasks. For the industry to execute appropriate environmental practices, the government has imposed rules and policies such as DOE Standard B. While there has been significant progress in the environmental arena as a result of this, the majority of which is due to improved scientific knowledge and land rights, many well-known economists have vastly underestimated the level of cooperation required to address some of the world's most serious environmental problems. Global warming and biodiversity loss, for example, require substantially greater in government engagement than previously believed. As a result, policies such as absolute CO2 restrictions and coordinated attempts to buy and conserve biodiversity hotspots around the world will need to be a big part of the future government policy. Last but not least, by applying unique and creative concepts, the university is one of the venues to emphasize environmental and ethical concerns. The university educates students for life by instilling in them the knowledge, competence, skills, and values required to create a sustainable future. These issues are explored in depth at the university level through engineering aspect. Research, technology, innovation, information development, and community involvement can all be used to raise awareness about real-world issues such as environmental and ethical concerns as we've been discussing. The curriculum will teach students about the interrelationship between nature, social environment, and lifelong activities in order to equip them to not only analyze and solve environmental problems, but also to develop and implement solutions.
In conclusion, wastewater resource recovery plant from the petroleum industry require effective waste management to reduce the environmental and health effect on the environment, human and animals. It is also enhance resource efficiency while potentially cutting costs by treating waste rather than disposing of it. According to law and regulation, every waste stream produced by a wastewater treatment plant must meet the applicable environmental standard B discharge limit. In this study, CO2 capture will involve cryogenic fractionation, membrane separation, and molecular sieve could be used to treat it until the liberated CO2 gas fulfill the OE requirement. Another option for treating CO2 from flue gas is to remove nitrogen from the air before the combustion process. As an engineer, it is critical to expand your knowledge, keep up with the technological innovations, and strive for continual improvement in order to reduce emission not just in wastewater treatment but also in other economic sectors such as agriculture. Engineers must take responsibility for engineering decisions that are in the best interest of public in terms of safety, health, and welfare. That's all. Thank you.